Welcome to the Texas Conflict Coach radio program. If you have ever experienced or engaged in destructive or unresolved conflict, then you know it leads to broken relationships, distrust, and damaging results. Our program will help you manage and resolve conflict effectively with strategies, valuable resources, and support. I am your host, Patty Porter. My guest hosts, Zina Zameta and Stephen Kotev, along with our guest experts, will share our experiences, raise your awareness, and give you food for thought. We will share with you problem-solving strategies no matter what your situation is. At work, with neighbors or friends, family, and as partners. Tune in or join in the conversation every Tuesday evening.
Welcome, everyone. Tonight we have myself, Zina Zameta, and Patty Porter as co-hosts. Patty will be checking in with anyone who wants to ask a question or make a comment. We kick off our dispute resolution cyber-style series with our program, Separating Families, How to Use Online Technology to Mediate Your Situation. This episode is part of Cyberweek, so we welcome our Cyberweek listeners to the program. Family Resolve is a video online dispute resolution service. It connects parents and partners with mediators using webcam-enabled online dispute resolution to bring mediation processes to separating families. Participants will learn how to use the internet with mediators to resolve family issues when there are distances between the parties, domestic violence issues involved, or cost factors become a concern. Joining us is Callum Campbell from Brisbane, Australia. As CEO of the Australian Mediation Association, Callum has been instrumental in the establishment of the Australian National Mediator Accreditation system, as well as the introduction to new forms of technology in the resolution of disputes. He has established court-annexed and private sector mediation systems, both in Australia and the South Pacific region, and has actively mediated and participated in over 2,000 mediations in all areas of the commercial legal arena, the workplace sector, and family law disputes, as well as community consultations. Tonight we are taking live callers. And Patty, do you want to pick it up?
Oh, absolutely. Well, welcome everyone to the program. Welcome Callum and Zina both to the radio program that we're having and kicking off this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Zina.
Well, absolutely. And, this is a really extra special episode tonight. We are part of Cyberweek, which is focused on online dispute resolution. And Callum with Family Resolve is kicking us off for the Cyberweek, which is hosted by Creighton University and ADR Hub. And so there's a number of ways that you can participate with Callum and Zina on the call live. You can actually call in 347-324-3591 and press the 1 key, and I'll try to screen the live callers as you come in. We also have the chat room open. I see we have some folks in the chat room already. Please feel free to leave your questions or comments there, and I'll bring them into the program with Zina and Callum. Or if you want, you can chat with us on our Twitter feeds. We are using the hashtag for Cyberweek as hashtag Cyberweek, just like it sounds, all one word, and also hashtag conflict chat. So we'll check in with you again halfway through the program. So back to you, Zina.
Well, great. So, Callum, why don't we start with the question of what is Family Resolve and how does it work?
Hi, so thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be involved here and everyone from Cyberweek. So, in reality, these days, most people conduct their businesses and personal communication either via the phone or online. With the advent of such tools such as Skype, and have physicians and physiotherapists working with clients and forming, sophisticated diagnosis through this medium as cost-effective alternative to in-person consultations. So what our experience has been with Family Resolve, it has shown us that online communication using this video conferencing techniques is just as effective as it allows busy people, individuals who may be homebound or those who live in different states or those who may have difficulty confronting one of the in person to have an opportunity to be and the mediators as the independent neutral to assist them in resolving their differences using the video conferencing technology.
So can you talk a little bit about what that video conferencing technology looks like?
Yes, not a problem. Traditionally, the online mediation technology, we use both voice, video, as well as text chat. So a little different from other online dispute resolution programs. We don't use like algorithms like sort of eBay and PayPal. It's not text-based. We do incorporate that function in. Similar to, say, like a 3, 4, or 5-way Skype, using the conferencing techniques, we can separate the parties into different chat rooms, different video conferencing rooms. We can pick parties. We can remove the images or turn their video cameras off if they don't particularly desire to be looking at each other, and just use the audio.
Interesting.
Use an online platform.
I see. So everybody can look at each other, but then if they don't want to, they don't have to. And it sounds like you can blank some people out when you go into like a caucus room?
That's correct. So all participants are screened prior to the commencement of a mediation for its suitability, and particularly if there are domestic violence issues, we need to make sure that the parties are comfortable. So typically, if they do not want to be looking at the other party, then we can obviously adapt the process to just an audio process rather than incorporating audio and visual as well as chat room functions.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's quite flexible in the ways that you can work with it.
Yes, of course. So ideally, all the skills of a mediator in person are used online.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you consider to be the benefits, the most important benefits of it?
Well, there are several advantages. Essentially, no matter what the context of the dispute, the job of the mediator is to help the parties talk. So we're still using this as a tool, an extension of the mediator. So the process of mediation, as everybody knows, traditionally involves techniques such as active listening, impartiality, summarising, reading, agreement right. So this process is obviously broken down into the mediation process of introductions, the joint sessions, separate sessions, and so forth. So the mediation is extremely sensitive to the communication. We've found by the teleconferencing, we're able to still pick up on the body language of the parties, some of the verbal cues that are used, just to make sure that the mediator is across both of the parties, or however many parties that there are. The communication must be effective enough to facilitate the understanding in reach this resolution. And so we strongly believe and encourage that video conferencing permits effective mediation. It's lost through having a mediator appear via video conference. As I said before, the verbal cues and so forth are lost. One of the primary advantages of online mediation is obviously the cost savings for the parties. We allow for sort of greater flexibility, allow for decisions to be made quicker, given that parties to get online, particularly if they're in different areas or different parts of the country. So cyber mediation includes cost savings, convenience, and possibly even avoiding jurisdictional issues. So in Australia, we have government-funded family law centres, which typically can take several months to get into their systems. So by providing this online video conferencing platform, we don't allow parties to access the mediator quickly and in a more timely and efficient manner. Now, because it's online as well, we obviously charge the fees that we would normally charge for face-to-face mediations. So it's substantially substantially cheaper to be using the online platform. So the mediator primarily stays. Yep.
So the mediator actually charges less for this?
That's correct, substantially less.
Wow. And is that because you don't have the same overhead costs?
That's correct. So we don't obviously have venue hire sometimes, depending on where the parties are located. The parties themselves don't have any travel costs associated or any costs associated with the shipment or transport documentation as well. That's all uploaded online.
Interesting.
And so typically, sorry.
Go ahead.
So typically with these ones, lawyers are not involved. The majority of the matters we do are parenting matters. So the lawyers typically, not having them there, costs, they can be on standby with the parties if a party particularly wishes for their lawyer to read through any agreements that are reached in the session. So what we're talking about, our video conferencing platform, it's sort of like a cheap and cheerful model to assist separating couples in arranging for children's arrangements and so forth, particularly with the end of the year coming up and the Christmas holidays. Parties really want to get the school holidays bedded down in relation to what's happened to kids and what the parents and so forth. By providing this platform, we can allow people to access Mediate a lot more efficiently than if they do decide to go with the free government services, which takes several months.
So it sounds like the government is not using these. This is really more the private sector?
Yeah, the government providers can take quite a period of time. It is mandatory in Australia to mediate parenting matters prior to commencing any court actions. So there's quite a market in Australia for family mediation around parenting matters as well as property matters.
Wow. So what
advantage? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is primarily just the convenience of technology. So video conferencing is very common now. In society, most PCs these days come with built-in video cameras and microphones. Video conference software is usually bundled with computers. You've got Skype usually comes with it, or there are such other products like GoToMeetings and so forth. So the tools used in everyday communication. The only issue there with the technology is obviously having the good internet connection and make sure the internet speeds are fast enough to accommodate the video conferencing. So that's one of the pros. Can also be a con, which I'll talk about on.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about, is some of the challenges to doing this kind of mediation.
Yep. So some of the challenges are obviously with the technology itself. So at times you do experience delays. So the mediator just needs to reassure the parties just to be patient and to work with the system. The video conferencing platform is really only as good as the weakest link in that session. So ideally, we tend to set up instructions 7 days prior to any mediation sessions, just to make sure that the parties' PCs and computers are ready and have the right and correct software, so that the video conferencing is facilitated on their home computers. So the potential for it to be inaccessible is one of the challenges. It won't work if you don't have a good picture or a good sound or good you must be able to have those in order for it to be an effective mediation. So it's very important that the actual video conferencing equipment is working on everyone's machines. Otherwise, it becomes a frustrating exercise.
And what percentage of the time do you have a good connection with good picture and good sound?
Well, the majority of the time, because we do the preparation prior. So if they find that their may not be the best, if they're in a rural, remote area, we'll encourage them to get somewhere that's got a better connection for them. So we've had some funny stories about, I don't know if many people know Australia, but in Tasmania, which is the very, very southernest part of Australia, I once did a mediation with parties that were down there, and they were climbing their neighbour's property on the farm to try and get better internet reception whilst we were conducting the actual mediation session. So, although it was funny at the time, it was a little frustrating trying to find a better wireless connection.
Yes.
wandering around a paddock.
Yeah. So it sounds like most people are comfortable with this kind of technology. Are there people who really aren't comfortable, who really can't use it?
Sorry, I just missed that last question. Are there people
that really aren't comfortable with the technology, who have a hard time using it?
Not really. We tend to find that the older generation have a little bit more difficulty, and if that's the case, we work with them just to make sure that their equipment is able to get up and running for the video conferencing platform. But pretty much these days, the majority of people are very, very familiar with things like Skype and video conferencing software. So we're not finding that's a really big issue. We have had a few clients, though, where they are a bit older and they need to get a bit of help just getting their PC set up. So with the costs associated, even though it is sort of what we call the cheap and cheerful model, it still is out of the range of some people. So there are obviously certain socioeconomic classes there that those still going to be a little bit prohibitive. So those people then tend to move into the free government systems that are being provided here in Australia. And a final sort of concern, which also relates to real-life mediations as well, or mediations conducted over the phone, is the confidentiality aspect. So we can obviously record the video conferencing session. So we ask the people to be recorded or not, because, as everyone knows, mediation is confidential. So typically we don't record unless the parties specifically wish for it. But also at the end of the day, there's really no way of telling, much like in a face-to-face, whether somebody's got an app on their phone that's running a recording in the background. That's just something you need to ask the parties, and we do ask, is anybody reading this conference, please, and get them to confirm that they're not.
That makes sense. Well, let me just mention that you are listening to the Texas Conflict Coach Blog Talk radio program, and we're talking about Family Resolve, a video online dispute resolution program in Australia. And we invite you to follow us on Blog Talk Radio or in the chat room or on Twitter. So are there other challenges, or do you want to talk a little bit about some of the experiences that you've had with the video conferencing?
Yes, not a problem at all. Obviously, allowing for the vocal and visual delays is an issue that needs to be factored in. One of the funny stories is myself as the mediator once actually dropped out, leaving the disputing parties online with themselves, with no mediator there to moderate or facilitate there. It was only for about 2 minutes, but it just, for some reason, the whole connection, my connection as the mediator dropped out, so I was frantically trying to dial back in. Thank goodness the parties weren't sitting there arguing with each other. They were just waiting patiently for me to return.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So that doesn't happen often. It's happened. I suppose a funny experience is, and I'm not too sure if it's the same where you are, but you're not allowed to smoke in most public places now, or government buildings and so forth. So I was doing a particular mediation where the parties were at home, and all of a sudden one of the parties lights up a cigarette and starts smoking it, and my initial reaction was, oh, hang on, you can't do that.
That's funny.
But they were actually sitting in their own living room, and of course they could do whatever they want in their own living room. So that was just something. Yeah, the natural reaction is you can't sit here and smoke, but no, they're sitting in the lounge room in the comfort of their own lounge rooms. So that's a bit of a funny story, that one.
Yeah.
We've also had one time as well, we we call severe storms here cyclones, and where one of the parties was actually out in a rural area, and a cyclone was going to be hitting them. And as we were talking, he was saying, I can see the roof of the shed being torn off as we speak.
Ah.
So it's quite funny to see where people are actually located while you're actually doing these mediations. So we had to actually spend that one due to my
good.
concerns.
I was hoping you wouldn't just continue on.
No, we stopped that one. He was just keen, but I thought whether he'd get himself to safety rather than talking to me.
That's good.
So we just rescheduled that one.
So you said that you check for suitability. What kinds of things do you do to check for suitability?
So we look at, parties fill out an intake questionnaire online on the website at Family Resolve. So basically we ask them all the questions in relation to how long they've been together, their emotional adjustment to the separation, dealing with separation, what are the kids' arrangements currently, or the children's arrangements. We also ask them about any domestic violence issues. Are there any domestic violence orders in place? And we ask them, do they have any mental health issues or any drug or alcohol issues that we need to be aware of? So all the parties have questionnaires, and we then go through those and the suitability of it. Now, if there are severe cases of, domestic violence where they need to get to a court quicker, obviously we issue certificates to say it's not suitable for
nice.
due to whatever factors. Yeah, or if the children are in any harm, we issue certificates saying, look, these parties need to go straight to a court.
But so it sounds like most of these are suitability for mediation, not necessarily suitability for online.
Most of them can be done online. So the majority, we very rarely don't proceed with the mediation. It's only in extreme cases where the parties need to go to court rather urgently that we then we issue a certificate allowing that. So even with domestic violence issues, that's why we're able to separate the parties to make sure that they don't even see each other. We put them in separate chat rooms so they don't even hear each other. And we can even do it like a shuttle mediation online as well if they literally don't want to hear or see the other party. So we can adapt the process to how the parties are. Obviously, we want to make the parties feel as comfortable as possible. If that's their wish to not see or hear the other party, we can still do it online. We just do it we have separate rooms for each of the parties, and the mediator just shuttles back and forth between the two of them.
So that sounds in many ways safer even than trying to do mediation live in those cases.
Yes. Yeah, particularly in some of those domestic violence cases. It just puts the parties more at ease.
And Patty, I want to invite you to, if you have any questions or comments, to come in and say something.
Yeah, I do have a question. And is all of the mediations with the families done synchronously, so all together at the same time, or are there ever occasions where the mediator is asynchronous, so they're having conversations at different time periods, but they're not all together having that conversation?
No, we'll typically book out a 3-hour session online, and it all occurs in that session. If the parties wish for a second or a third session, we then reschedule those sessions at a later date. So it's always the three people, the mediator and the two parties. We don't ever separate one party out at a different time with the mediator.
So does that mean y'all don't use caucus then?
Yes. So we're able to, on the video conferencing platform, we move the parties into caucus, or we call them separate sessions or private sessions. So literally you drag one screen into a separate part of the screen of the mediator, and that then moves the parties into caucus, and they can't hear each other, and they can't hear the mediator talking to the other party.
So in other words, it's done if you're going to have them in private sessions, as you described earlier, with checking for suitability, domestic violence, those kinds of issues. It's done within that 3-hour time frame as if you were doing a live mediation. But a caucus or a private session is never done outside of that 3-hour period asynchronously. It sounds like y'all don't do that.
No, we don't.
Okay.
And I'm curious, you had said that sometimes lawyers are involved. How does that work if you have 4 of them and the mediator all looking at each other?
If the lawyer's there, I typically focus on the parties. If the parties are unable to speak for themselves, then obviously I'll deal with the lawyer. Preferably, we try and focus on the parties there, and we just reassure them that if they wish to speak to their lawyer about any matters at any time, that they're free to do so. Obviously, it's a flexible process.
And so they might have a caucus with their lawyers, just like they might have a caucus with you.
That's correct, yes. Typically, if they are going to involve a lawyer, they will go to the lawyer's office and they'll be together. That's what we found in practice. Yeah, that's what we typically find in practice. They don't actually join in separately; they'll be sitting together.
Oh, okay. And so, if they want, if the lawyer and the client want to talk to each other, but not have the mediator observe it, can you do that?
Yep, they just mute themselves out, and they can chat away, and no one can hear them.
And then they can come back in.
And then they can come back in.
That sounds like a really powerful platform. Patty, anything else?
I do have another question that came up as you were just talking about that. And is there ever a time where some of you are on the video conferencing platform, but 1 or 2 of you are in a physical room using the video conferencing platform?
I don't think I understood that. So,
So in other words, you know how some people might say, I don't mind using a video conference platform, but can I come to your office, mediator, and sit in your room while we video conference with my soon-to-be ex and their lawyer? Or is there a boundary around that?
Yeah, online. Everyone does it online, so we don't have one party meeting face-to-face with the mediator. So we make it an even playing field. If it's going to it's going to be at their own place, and we all dial into the platform.
Okay, so that is the boundary. So no one can, sneak in and try to feel like they're getting an advantage by saying, I'll just meet at his office, and then we'll video conference with you.
No, we don't do that.
Well, it's good because, I'm sure listeners who are, new to online technology in terms of doing family separating families, divorcing, because it's becoming very, this whole area is really, really growing, and obviously y'all have a significant lead. I think the United States and Canada and different other countries like Latin America are really getting very involved in using online platforms, but a lot of listeners are still new to it because they're still trying to figure it out. So I appreciate you answering those questions because we want to make sure they understand that you're setting these boundaries, you're, like you said, leveling the playing field, and making sure that everyone is versed enough in using the technology so that they can accurately or effectively participate in the online platform. So that's good. I appreciate you answering those questions.
That's great. So as we begin to move towards closing, I'm wondering if there are listeners who are very interested in this area, is there a follow-up that you could suggest or something that they could do to take the next step?
Yeah, I think for a web resource, I always like www.odr.info.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great resource. And by way of books, there's one called Online Dispute Resolution Theory and Practice, a Treatise on Technology and Dispute Resolution. And that's published by 11 International Publishing, edited by Muhammad Abdel Wahab, Ethan Catch, and Daniel Rainey. And that basically includes articles from researchers all over the world in relation to online dispute resolution. I find it a fascinating book talking about the European online commerce It's got Australia in there as well. Some of the experiences from eBay and PayPal and so forth. So I'd recommend that book if anybody's interested in online dispute resolution theory and practice.
Oh, that's great. And your own contact information, would you name your website again?
Yep, so it's just www.familyresolve.com.au. And there's just a contact page there if anybody wishes to have any queries or questions.
Oh, that's great. And do you have any closing comments, any final message that you want to leave with listeners?
It's just, I suppose, this is the way that the future is going in relation to video conferencing. This will only gain more and more momentum as internet speeds pick up. People will get more and more familiar with video conferencing. It still captures all the non-verbals or body language. The mediator is still able to build a great rapport with the parties online using this video conferencing. So I'd say don't be afraid of it. Embrace it and go forward with it.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Don't be afraid of it and embrace it. Well, thank you so much, Callum Campbell. We really appreciate your joining us and appreciate your sharing your very interesting experiences with Family Resolve. Any final words, Patty?
No, thank you both, and thank you for kicking off our Cyberweek series and being part of Cyberweek with ADRHub.com. Thanks, Callum. Thanks, Zena.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. It's been a pleasure to be involved in Cyberweek and a pleasure to be involved with the Texas Conflict Coaching.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Texas Conflict Coach. We hope you enjoyed the program. You can find all of our podcasts archived to listen at your convenience at texasconflictcoach.com or download the podcast at iTunes or Stitcher Radio. You can also become a Facebook fan of Conflict Connection or Twitter me at TX Conflict Coach.